Good evening, friends. This is another session on technical analysis. Today we'll be covering MACD. So let's start the session. Let me share my screen as I always do. And we'll kick off. Let's begin the session. Okay, so the topic of today's discussion is technical indicators, especially the trending ones with MACD deep dive. All right. So again, as I mentioned, right, there are few indicators which we have been talking a lot more compared to others, and we did use MACD primarily because it's one of the important indicators used by technical analysts for all the asset classes and almost all over the globe. All right. So basically, what are trending indicator concept, right? So you guys, if you remember, we had on Sunday morning, we had a discussion wherein we had technical, basically the key price action stuff, and there's an equivalent of technical indicator along with that. So for trends, the indicator that is almost equivalent of anything that will be visually looking at the charts would be MACD and few other trending indicators, right? So what are the key concepts we'll cover? Trend reversals, trend identification, trend strength, few trading strategies like what we covered yesterday, and a complementary indicator along with MACD. All right. Okay, so technical trend indicators, what are the typical indicators used by analysts? The popular ones I have mentioned here. One is MACD, which is Moving Average Convergence Divergence, Supertrend, ADX, RVI, Ichimoku, and there are many more, but these are relatively more popular among the indicators available in the market. All right. So a technical indicator deep dive. So the topic would be pretty much on MACD, starting from here. Trends and other things we have covered in details in the previous session, right? So I don't want to bore you guys with the same set of information that we have already done. So directly jumping into MACD. So MACD deep dive. What is MACD? So MACD, it says that Moving Average Convergence and Divergence, MACD, developed by Gerald Apple in 70s. Again, the reason why I mentioned 70s is like it's a time-tested thing, and the quality of its signal is still relevant, right? I mean, so there's not much of indicators which has superseded this indicator which was created about 50 years back, right? What are the key constituents of it? MACD line, signal line, and histogram. These are three important or three major constituents of MACD, right? So as the name suggests, it is moving average, convergence, and divergence. So it's not a rocket science to say that it's built on top of moving average, and when the moving averages converge and diverge from each other, that's where these signals are created, and you can make a good trade out of it. Okay. All right. So what are MACD formula and settings? Right. So MACD is basically where you have two moving averages, especially the default one being the exponential moving average. So when the short-term moving average, so basically it is difference between two moving average, short-term minus long-term exponential moving average is what will give you MACD. Right. So basically you can use any two EMAs to generate MACD. So the standard being the slow one is the slow one being 26, the fast one being 12. So whenever there's a difference between two exponential moving average, right? If you plot those differences, then what you'll get is MACD line, right? So if you guys remember, in some of the indicators that we saw before yesterday, one is stochastic indicator or stochastic RSI, wherein you see two lines together, right? One is the actual indicator line, and the second one is the moving average on top of the indicator. So also we did with RSI with its moving average, right? So the default settings for MACD is the difference between moving average and again a moving average on top of the indicator, which means that this MACD is difference between two moving average that will give you MACD, and when you plot a moving average on top of MACD line, then the signal line comes in, and there's a histogram. Histogram is MACD minus signal. So it's not very complicated when it comes to formula, but I don't think you guys would require to remember the formulas, because gone are the days where tools were not available. There are plenty of tools available like TopStockResearch, which will provide you not only the charts but the proper screeners and the actual MACD value. Now these moving averages are plot on close price. So the standard one are 12, 26 and 9 on close price, and the moving average here, the standard moving average is exponential moving average. Okay. So moving average in Top Stock Research or TSR, you can get it on a stock. You can get it on a pre-screener. Pre-screener uses the standard configuration, which is 12, 26, 9 on close price, right? So these are the ones which is generally gives you the best result, right? That's why it's standard, or it was recommended by Mr. Gerald, right? When he created that, right? So you have a pre-screener, then you have custom screener or DIY screeners, what we call, where you can customize MACD, right, with different set of values other than 12, 26, 9. Then you have a bullish crossover. These are very important signals which you should be looking for to make a good trading call, right, or basically for your analysis. Then you have a cross tick similar to what we have seen in RSI. Here also you can have in a same screener, you can have MACD on daily, weekly, monthly, 1 hour, 2 hour, so on and so forth. Then there's an option of MACD trending. What it tells is that how MACD itself is trending. So apart from all the crossovers and other stuff, you can see that if MACD is trending up for last 5 days, 7 days, right, so on and so forth. And the MACD divergence, right? MACD divergence, so basically yesterday we got a very high level overview of what divergence is, especially in terms of relative strength index divergence. Similar divergence also works for MACD, right? MACD as well as MACD histogram. Okay, then we have MACD in charts. MACD, you can look in the watch list. Today, if time permits, we'll create a simple watch list to show how to get MACD values of a basket of stocks or the stock of your interest, right? Then you can add alerts on MACD, like any other screener that we have or any other indicator that we have. You can also put alert on MACD so that any of these signals are generated, then you will get an alert, SMS, web or email alert, right? So these are typical set of functionalities which is available in TSR, right? Using DIY screener or using the pre-screened options, right? So MACD deep dives in TSR. So there's an actual value, there's a brief analysis about it, and there's a color coding with signal, right? So how does it look like? So when you look at MACD on a particular equity, not sure which equity, yeah, it is CCL products, right, which my team has found out. So you'll get MACD value and the signal line, and then there's a brief commentary which says that MACD signal line bullish crossover, and there's a frequent, it seems to be trending, so it seems to be trending, but there's a frequent crossover, right? So it gives you a lot of insight about any particular stock that you are interested in. Then obviously there's a color code. So the color code here, right, says bullish, primarily because there's a bullish crossover which has happened here. Okay, so let's take a minute to look at any stock. So do you guys want to suggest me any stock that is of your interest? Keep on mentioning the stock names. I may not go to all the stocks, but I would want to take stocks of your choice. If there's no stock of your choice, then I'll simply go into Nifty. Bajaj Finserv. Okay, Nagaraju, I think you have a lot of holding on this one. Good. So Bajaj Finserv, that's a name which keeps coming. Sorry, I'm picking any name, right? My apologies. Yeah, so it's a stock, right? So MACD is here. You have the MACD value here, the signal line value, and it says that it is bearish. Why it is bearish is it is a bearish crossover, and that level is still sustaining. So let's look at the chart. Let's look at the chart with MACD, right? You'll see that there's a bearish signal, and the difference between the two lines, right, the signal line and MACD line is widening. That's why it's bearish. And if you also see the chart of this stock, it's also in the same direction, right? So that's how you'll typically see the MACD, how it relates directly to the trending of the parent, basically information, where in this case the parent information is the stock price, right, or close price of the stock, right? Persistent is another example. Let's see where persistent is as far as moving average convergence divergence is concerned. You have, again, this is bearish, not great stocks to be picked, but if you see, MACD is clearly in the negative territory, whereas signal line is far ahead. So let's have, so again the commentary is pretty similar, right? It's bearish crossover and that is sustaining. when you look at this, the crossover has happened here, and ever since the crossover has happened, it's like going in the downturn direction. So for these kind of stocks, right, the crossover is giving you a pretty good quality signal. Of course, in the sideways market. So guys, any stock which is in non-trending market, right, and you are looking at a trending indicator, you will get some sort of basically false signals, right? Like here it was trending, so it gave you a very good results. Ever since it went into small sideways market, there were a lot of false signals generated. So where MACD works best is when it is in trending market. Okay. So we took examples, a couple of examples from the recommended ones from our team or from our audience. Right? So that's how you'll see MACD deep dive in Top Stock Research. The next is MACD trading strategy. So this is where I think most of the attention should be, and we will spend most of our time on MACD strategies, right? So strategies, MACD, trend reversal. So it's very important to find the trend. It's very important to find trend reversal, and it is very important to find trend confirmation. So these are three things which we'll try to find in our session today, right? MACD sessions. Trend reversals. So when then there is MACD crossing above zero line or below zero line. So there's a value of zero line, which we'll see what that zero line is and how to get signal out of it. Right. Then you have MACD trending. Like MACD itself is trending, right? Apart from what the price is trending, MACD itself is trending. So that's again something which you can get there, right? So this is where you'll see that MACD is trending well. So even if you have missed the bus, this would be a good opportunity to get into that game again. Okay. Next is MACD trend strength strategies. The next one is divergence, MACD divergence, and then next is MACD histogram divergence. So guys, remember in the previous slides we saw that there are three components of MACD: MACD itself, signal line, and there's a histogram. We'll see what that histogram is in coming sessions, so that and what are the strategies which can be used on histogram, MACD histogram, right? Then MACD double confirmation. It's always good for relatively conservative traders or investors. They would like to have double confirmation before they get into the into the action. So there's a MACD double confirmation strategy out here, and then MACD with other indicators. As we have seen, right, every indicator, if there is a complementary indicator or a supportive indicator, it tends to give you even better quality results. So consider this more as a double confirmation with MACD. Okay, then MACD for day trading. How do you use MACD for day trading? So the standard configuration for MACD is 12-26-9. We'll see that does it really work for day trading, or there can be a better combination for day trade using MACD. Then the next one is MACD for swing trading, right? So what kind of settings you should have for MACD swing trading? Okay, so those are the 10 strategies we have taken, the best quality of 10 strategies which analysts use for MACD trading. Okay, so MACD reversal strategies is what will start. So guys, remember there are three components of MACD. The one is MACD itself, and the second is signal line. Now what happens is when MACD crosses above signal line, that's where the bullish signal is generated, right? So when we look at a sample example, right, if you see over here, whenever MACD has crossed above the signal line, the blue line being MACD and the red line being the signal line. So whenever the blue line crosses above the red line, right, that's where the signal is generated. In this example, the signal was generated sometime here, and then there's a good rally. It's trending up, right? So no cause of worry, and it gave a fairly good move out here, right? So this is a typical MACD bullish crossover. So enter at this point, and then the exit criteria is out here, right? So there's some sort of a good movement out here. Similarly, there's an example of a MACD bearish crossover. So the blue line crossed below the red line. That's where the sell signal is generated, and there's a decent rally out here, and there's some money to be made, right? If this is the case, Then specifically we have taken examples where you'll see which definitely tell you that there's no indicator which is like which always gives you the 100% correct results. There's always a whipsaw where you will hit some stop losses, right? But again, the idea is to basically ride on the wave and cut down your losses, right? So you will be losing certain money if you have traded with MACD, but eventually the amount of rally which will eventually give you is pretty good, which we should cover your stop loss and which should give you a decent sum of returns. Okay. Then I'll take a small opportunity over here to explain the third component, since we are on a chart, right? If you see wherever this signal line is crossed, right, the histogram or this set of bars, horizontal bars plotted along with MACD, this line which there's a line which is zero line. So zero line, whenever the MACD and the this crossover, signal line crossover happens, you will see that it goes to zero line, and depending on where the MACD line vis-a-vis the signal line, accordingly you will see that if it is above signal line, you will see the bars above zero level. If it is below, you will see bars below the zero level. So this thing is called histogram. It has a lot of relevance. Apart from visually seeing where things are vis-a-vis these two lines, you will also see that there's a trend, and obviously we'll see the reversals and divergence in a short while. Okay. So guys, any questions so far on MACD, or the basic structure, basic components of MACD signal line, histogram, because this will form the basis of our further discussion. So if there's any question at this point of time, I think the time is now to ask. And also guys, feel free to tell me that if this time is convenient, if a time of slightly later time like 7 p.m. would be better, we'll try to do that also, right? So feel free to pass all those basically feedback or questions in the chat session. We'll be happy to answer as much as we can, right? So basically the question here is basically histogram, right? So histogram is basically the difference between MACD line and the signal line. If the MACD is above signal line, right, the histogram will be above this zero line, right, and vice versa. If MACD is below the signal line, then you will see that the plotting of this thing. Now this is basically the difference between two lines. So when they are at the same level, you will see that MACD histogram is at a zero level, right? At any of the crossover periods, at this period, it is almost zero or near zero, right? Zero level. Then about the interpretation, right, of histogram. Now, if the stock is rallying pretty well, right, as in this particular case, right, you'll see that histogram is getting much more stronger, right? So just without looking at these lines, in our charts, we have just MACD histogram together, but you will see some of the charting platform where you'll see only histograms, right, which will also add in a short time. So only histogram, only MACD and signal line, and then combination of all the three. The reason why we didn't do so far is because we don't want it to get little cluttered, but we have to find a mechanism where without cluttering the panel, you should be able to have MACD with histogram and only histogram, right? So we are looking to have a better quality mechanism to display that set of information, right? Let me take a moment to see if there's any comments. Timing is perfect. Thank you, sir, for mentioning that. Histogram interpretation, Nagarajan, I believe that's what we try to answer. If signal line and MACD crosses above zero line, should we take trade? Nagaraju, I think we are slightly jumping ahead of the curve. We will try to cover those aspects in all the strategies, right? And then perhaps if any of your strategy or any of your learning is not covered, we'll try to cover if I'm able to, if I'm competent enough to answer those things. Okay. So there are two lines, but MACD is 12.26.9. Yeah, that's a good question. So what happens is MACD is basically okay. So let me go back. Let me go back to the previous slides, right? If you go back to the previous slides, in fact, one of the first slides, right, where it tells about this thing, right? So so basically there are three EMAs, right? So first EMA minus second EMA. is MACD. So 26 and 12 minus 26, 12 being the shorter one, minus 26 is MACD line, right? Now, when you draw, so you get the MACD, right? So there's a term called time series. I don't want to bore you with the jargons, but time series is basically the points along with the time, right? So let's say on first of the month, it is X. On the second month, it is 1.1x. On the third, it is 1.2x, and so on and so forth, right? That's how you will draw MACD. Now, once you have the 9 values, right, then what you can do is you can also plot a exponential moving average on MACD itself. So this becomes the third value, 9, right? So 12, 26, and 9, right? So fast minus slow is MACD, and then exponential moving average on MACD is 9. So I don't think you guys really need to know so many things, because I don't want to get into mathematics and all the interior working of it, right? So internal working of it, because that will deviate the topic, right? And we are not like in a statistics class where we have to get into all those things, right? But if you have an interest in these things, I think this will be an interesting exercise for you to take on your own, right? But if you still think that you require a little bit of explanation and other things, we'll be happy to do so on one-on-one. Okay. Significance of zero line, will come to that, right? Because in the coming sessions we'll have that one, right? So what we covered is basically the MACD and the signal line crossover, the bullish crossover as well as the bearish crossover. We have another example over here. Okay, so this particular example covers both, right? Keep mentioning the stock names if you want to cover any particular stock. I'll prefer stock which is highly volatile in the market, or which trades, not highly volatile, stock with good volume. Okay. All right. Maybe I'll take a small opportunity here to tell you that, if the stock is basically in an uptrend or in a sideways market, then how the MACD would be, right? So looking at one of those standard screeners, let's go to chart pattern. Chart pattern will go into something like a rectangle pattern or channel. Rectangle, let's look at this thing, right? Over here, since it is in sideways market, right, when you plot MACD along with it, you'll see that there's a lot of crisscross happening, right? In a sideways market, MACD will not give you very good signal, right? But on a trending market, something which is trending very well, let's take this example only when it was trending, right? It was trending down over here, so you'll see much better quality signal, right? So on a sideways market, MACD is not going to give you very good results, right? But from here to this point, right, there was a good trend, right? So MACD was giving much better quality results, but on a sideways market, it's not likely to give very good results. Okay. All right. So that's something which I wanted to tell you, that where MACD really fits on a sideways market or a trending market. We'll cover Tata Chemicals, AU Bank, and these things in subsequent sessions, right? So that we'll try to cover many strategies along with many examples, right? Okay. The second one, somebody mentioned that they were interested in zero line crossover, right? So what is zero line, right? So when MACD line itself crosses above zero line, right, a signal is generated. So over here, if you see, you see that MACD has crossed above the signal line, right? But the quality of the move happened when you have a combination of two, which is it has crossed above the signal line as well it has gone above the zero line, right? That means once it crosses above the zero line, right, then you see that the rally is much more better, right? The quality of rally is much better, as we see in this particular example, right? As we see in this particular example, when the MACD line, so a lot of analysts use this as the primary tool, like when is MACD above zero line or not, along with all the other settings. What you can do is you can see that MACD is above zero line, right? How do we see that in our screener? Let's go to, so either you have an option of a screener which is directly on a zero line, right? MACD above zero line, right? And then so you'll get all the stocks which are where MACD is above zero line, right? So MACD value is 0.7, right? MACD crossing above zero line. So When you look at this, you'll see that MACD has just crossed above the zero line. Look at the second stock, right? MACD has just crossed above the zero line, likely to cross the signal line also to give better quality of strength. Okay. So that is the significance of zero line, right? So this itself is an indicator, right? This itself is an indicator and tells you that how the stock is vis-a-vis this thing, right? So time to take an example of a stock. Guys, since this is random, right? So you may not get very good results always, right? Voltas consumer, right? So let's look at MACD, right? So this is where the crossover has happened, and then there was a rally, right? And the rally ended out here, right? Said this is so it didn't cross the zero line at all in this case, right? So then it's a pretty choppy one, right? It's not like a great trending market apart from this place. If you had sold at this point of time, you would have there was a good move downwards, right? So similarly, use any of your example for your analysis, right? Sometimes you'll get very good quality signal, sometimes not, sometimes choppy market like on this side. So hitting stop loss is better than not taking all the profit that you can take when the market is trending, right? MACD works very well in trending market. RSI, if you're looking more like a sideways market, perhaps RSI would be giving you some sort of a better quality results, right? So that's how you can use it. So sideways market, consider RSI as support and resistance kind of a thing. This is where there's a breakout, trend breakout kind of a thing, is where you can look MACD for. Okay. So MACD above zero line we have covered, right? MACD below zero line, this is where the crossover has happened, but MACD actually crossed below zero line at this level and there was a good move down, right? Then there's again a good move up, but MACD zero line is not yet crossed. Once it crosses, perhaps there could be a good rally. Okay. Right. So MACD trending strategies, right? MACD is trending above zero level and MACD is trending up for 3 ticks, right? Let's use our DIY screener to find the stocks which matches these two criteria. So MACD, okay, crossing above zero line. So this is the first criteria that we'll see out here, right? Guys, is the screen size okay, or should I increase the resolution? Maybe a bit, right? So that, okay, it's too much. 125 I think is okay, right? So maybe on a smaller screen, right? We have a huge size of screen, so generally we tend to forget that not everybody would be having so big a screen. So I've just zoomed it a bit, right? Just tell me that if this is better, or if it's not better, we can go back to the original settings. First setting that we did is MACD crossing above zero line. So let's look at what do we get in let's say FNO stocks, right? No stock, okay, too bad, right? So we get 3 stocks where the MACD is crossing above the zero line, right? MACD is crossing above the zero line. Now the second thing is, like, is MACD really trending, or it's basically MACD is really trending, or it's just like a crisscross, right? So what you can do is you can add another MACD, right? You can go into MACD line, you go to trending up. Let's see our luck if there's any stock which comes with trending for at least 3 days, right? So this will be a better combination, right? So we get 2 stocks where the MACD is rising and also crossing above the signal line. You see a very nice bottom being formed out here, right? A very nice bottoming out, right? If you see, right? So there's a possibility of BASF going up, right? So look at the other factors, but it looks like that the bear rally is almost getting exhausted, and you'll see slightly higher lows out here, right? So this could be, and the movement is much better, or stock the volume wise, the movement is much better on this side. Same thing is Sonata Software, right? If you see, it is trending, and it's both these things are happening at the same time. So you'll see that multiple signals are getting generated, right? So you can try out these kind of discussions or analysis for your trading or basically more deep diving purpose. Okay, so this is another strategy where we have mixed up three things over there. In fact, in the example, we have seen three things: MACD rising, MACD crossing above zero line, and also MACD about to cross the signal line, right? So there are multiple confirmation. If you use only MACD, then this would be a good signal. Okay, then MACD trend strength strategies, right? So MACD histogram trending above zero line, right? So the third constituent of MACD histogram, if it is going above zero line, and that's a strategy, right? So let's take one by one. So let's take an example. Let me see if we have a theoretical example here. Yeah. So this is where the MACD is crossing above zero line, right? So this is where the MACD is crossing above the zero line, and you see the movement of these bars. If the bars are going up, then obviously the MACD is going much faster than the signal line. And so you'll, in this particular case, right, if you use histogram, you will indirectly get a lot of other things also. For example, this is crossing above zero line, and also it's trending. So let's take an example of this one, wherein let's go and close anything which is not so important. We change this to histogram, cross above zero line. So let's see if there's any stock which comes. So there are quite a few stocks, right, which is showing this result, right? So histogram crossing above the zero line, not a great example, right? Yeah, right. So you can look at some of these things. Also, what you can do is histogram trending. So if we see here, we add another MACD, and we see histogram trending up for, let's say, 5 days, right? Yeah, so few stocks where the histogram is trending, right? So if you see that the histogram is moving upwards and finally it has crossed above. So again, you see that there's a bottoming kind of activity happening, right? So if you see that it fell with a good volume, but that didn't sustain, it sort of a very loose double bottom pattern is formed. If you see, a loose double bottom pattern is formed. The first one is with higher volume, the second one is coming with much lower volume, and then there's a better volume when it's going up, right? So that kind of things that you should be looking at when you are doing this. Is MACD histogram a leading indicator or a lagging? Obviously, it's a lagging indicator. Okay, so this is the place where the crossover has happened, right? Where were we?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, sir. So again, MACD histogram is trending. It has crossed above zero line, right? So you see this signal is here. Then you see a small kind of bottoming out, and then a huge sort of trying to break out from this level. If it breaks out of this level, then it has a potential of going up. Okay. The next one, or the next strategy, histogram strength, is what we have just covered, right? Any questions on this one before we go into divergence? All right. So can you illustrate a backtesting of any of these indicators? We'll try to do that, sir. MACD divergence strategies, right? So basically, what is divergence? Divergence is when, as we learned yesterday, right? Divergence is when there's the pattern of price versus its indicator or versus its derivative is showing the exactly opposite results, right? In this case, price is making lower lows, whereas the indicator is giving higher lows, right? So this is what the divergence is. So there's a bullish divergence, there's a bearish divergence, right? So bearish divergence is where the price is making higher highs and indicator is making lower high. Okay. Now, basically, let's go to an example of this. Right. In this particular case, the price is making lower lows, whereas the indicator or basically MACD line, right, is making higher highs. Once this is identified, right, this is not the point where you will be identifying. You will be identifying when the curve is happened, right? So identifying at this level, you never know that where it is going. It is going down or it's going up. Only when a proper a turn is there, right? That's where you will get there. So At the proper turn, you'll see not only that turn, but also that signal line crossover, right? So you get multiple confirmation out here. And also the histogram is going up. So histogram is also trending, and this is the one, right? So Natasha sir, I'll just take a small opportunity here, right? So basically a back testing, right? Back testing is something which you can always go back in the chart. It's very easy to spot, right? Because these levels are there, which is very easy to spot. What screener will also do is the same thing what you will go back in the chart and see, right? We will try to see AU Bank example. Not sure if there's a divergence or not at this point of time, but we'll see, right? So when you go back in the chart, right, this is where the crossover has happened. A bearish crossover has happened and it came down, right, from that level, right? A bullish crossover has happened, it didn't do very well, right? A small movement, but didn't do very well there. But again, the crossover has happened here. It gave a pretty decent rally, right? It gave a pretty decent rally. And so this is how typically you can also look at the back testing of this, right, indicator just in the chart. So let's try to see if AU Bank gives us that opportunity. Right. So one of the common mistakes, right, or one of the common, what do I say? Common tendency is to try to find a pattern on a particular stock, right? You cannot force a pattern on a stock. If you were to do that, right, then perhaps you will not get the right set of results. Now you look at the example. Fortunately, we could get that. So this is making lower lows, whereas the MACD is making higher lows in AU Bank over here. Right. So Rahul, if you see over here, the MACD is making higher lows, whereas the price is making lower, right? So this is we just try to find. We were just fortunate to find a divergence in the stock that you mentioned, right? And then there was a rally up there, right? So generally not very easy to find a pattern or a particular signal on a stock unless you go back in the history and try to do a little bit of things, which would typically be sort of your back testing, right? So if you move back, just try to see where it is, right? You will invariably find a few patterns, very interesting patterns, right? Like amazing rally, right? From here to here, there's an amazing rally. So that's where the MACD works really, really well in a trending market, right? I hope that answers your question, Rahul. Okay, so coming back to the divergence, so a simple. So in the example that we saw, this is typical definition of a bullish divergence, right? The price versus indicator, both diverging against each other. So first of all, MACD itself is a convergence and divergence, and you can have another level of divergence on top of it. We'll see the third level of divergence in a short while. Okay. So it's like a derivative of derivative. Not sure किसी को याद होगा स्कूल में पढ़े थे हम लोग mathematics में derivation, but this is a practical implementation of it, right? So, right. Similarly, you have bearish divergence. What it says is price is making new highs, right? But MACD is not giving the same kind of company to it, right? MACD. So, remember, guys, we have few leading indicators. Divergence being one of them, right? It gives you signal much ahead of the actual price movement, right? So it has come down. So you will never know that divergence is happening at this point of time because it is still trending up. Only when it comes down somewhere around this level or this level, right? That's where you can spot a divergence, right? If you're looking at this kind of a time frame, right? A time frame which is basically 2 to 4 weeks time frame, then this is the kind of divergence. This is the place roughly where you will get a divergence. Right. So once the divergence has happened, you wait for price to come down a bit, and that's where you should try to get into the price. Okay. So there was another kind of a small divergence here. This is making low. This is making high. Right. So once you start understanding it, right, lots of these patterns you'll start observing on your own. Right. A lot of these patterns you'll start observing on your own. Again, there's a small divergence here. Right. This is making low. This is going up. Right. So again, there's a divergence out here, right? So you'll see a lot of different kind of divergence. Once you get used to the charts, looking at the charts, generally on a lot of stocks, you'll find one or the other pattern for divergence. Okay. So that's about the divergence. Then the third level of derivation, right, or derivative, which I was referring to, right? So again, the divergence, the last divergence that we saw was divergence on MACD line. Similarly, you can have divergence on histogram also, right? So how a typical divergence of histogram is. Now this is considered to be quite reliable, right? Spotting these divergences are much more difficult. It's quite difficult, in fact, right? It's much more rare, right? But these are much more powerful, right? These are much more powerful. So this is where you'll see that the divergence is here. It didn't cross above the zero line, right? So basically there's a low, and the second low is higher, whereas the price is exactly opposite of that when it comes to low, right? After that there was a good rally, right? So there's some good movement out there. As if you raised hand again, you have a question? No? Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, Asif.
I want to ask you if in TSR I suppose I plotted for bearish divergence. So then further on, if I get some stocks, so that are suitable for bearish means that will go bearish further on after that.
Likely to go, yes. Right?
Acha.
हाँ, see, perfect तो आपको कोई नहीं बता पाएगा,
Yes.
right? So nobody can predict future, right? So in the best of the analysts, but see, what we try to do is a possibility, right? The
Yes.
probability.
Yes. And hence further on, as per the price action, it will further will it will decide how it's going to go. But it is
Correct.
the possibility of there is there.
Exactly, right? That's why I'm
Yes.
keep on saying, right? So don't push your stock on an indicator. Let the
Acha.
screener throw that thing to you
हाँ.
and use that as a starting point. Use charts for other confirmation. It could be price action, support, resistance, and other
Yes.
indicators. Okay, and also
Yes. Yes.
sometimes news also comes and plays.
Yes.
Like couple of days back when we had this session, right, there was a lot more
Yes.
scare related to pandemic, right? You see a lot of these stocks were showing much better compared to others, the
Yeah. Yeah.
testing labs, right?
Farmers.
Now
Yeah.
there are a lot of other news which are contrary to that, saying that India mein kuch nahi hoga, right? So
Hmm.
obviously so you have to, at times you also have to keep your eyes and ears open
Yes.
for the general movement, right?
Yes. We have to adapt according to the news. I got it.
Yes, sir. Right?
Thank you.
It could be news, it could be rumors, right? So it could be anything. So whenever there's a rumors or news, right?
Yes.
Unless it's a proven one, try to avoid those things. Stock totally those stocks, right? Unless it's a huge, big, large cap stocks where the influence of a small news and other things doesn't make a big impact. Like Reliance had a very big impact of a news, right? When during the pandemic time, where there were a lot of investment from Facebook and some of the other organizations, they invested a lot on Reliance, right? So automatically the value goes. So those were the confirmed set of news which came in, right? So
Hmm.
those kind of
Hmm.
news, even on a large cap, can make a huge difference, right?
Acha.
Otherwise, avoid karo, right? News based
Yes.
karna hai, to technical analysis is not for the news, right?
Acha. Acha.
But keep eyes and ears open.
Yes. Yes. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So
Thank you.
that was
Thank you.
about the bullish histogram divergence, right? And similarly, you have a bearish divergence, right? Everything what is there for bullish, there's an equivalent of bearish.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Any questions before we move on? I think we are doing much better in terms of time today compared to yesterday. Perhaps it's not. Yeah, Ashok sir.
So what I understand is if it is a bearish divergence,
Hmm.
that means the price will be shown as going higher, opposite of the bear, whereas the indicator will be indicating bearish trend.
Yeah. This is the one, right? So if you see, so let's go back to the example. Let's go back to the example, right? Price is going up. Indicator is not giving the same company.
So it's a when the price is going up, then it is going up opposite to the trend.
Yes, right. See, आपको bearish signal, you'll get bearish signal only when so market is going up and there's a change of direction, right? So
So
bearish
it's a
divergence
false.
comes when the price is rising.
So it is creating a false impression that the price is going up and people will jump in, whereas the indicator is indicating a bearish trend.
Yes, sir. Right. So what it means is basically it is giving you a heads up, right? आपको पहले से बताता है कि क्या possibility है in coming days.
Okay. So the possibility indicator is indicating it is going to be a bearish trend. So we should not buy.
You should avoid. Yes. In fact, if you
And
have that kind of basically arsenals in your this thing, right,
okay.
of shorting the stocks or I don't recommend too many people to go for future and options, but some people can even look. So generally, if you are in typical stocks, right, you only do a long position. Long position is like buying today and selling tomorrow. The short position is just opposite of that. You don't have any position. You sell it and then you buy later.
So bullish divergence is a positive thing, wherein the price is going down
Yeah,
and the indicator is indicating that in coming days it is going to be bullish.
likely to be bullish. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Can you explain MACD divergence, right? So, sir, what happens, right, is basically there is divergence itself says that when two things are not going in sync, right? When two particular set of tools are not going in the same direction, that's where it is divergence, right? So, what happens is if price is making or if the price is making a lower low, right? Price is so if you just look at the price action, forget about the right hand side, right? Only this thing, right? So the price action will tell you that it's likely to go below, right? Whereas its derivative, where it is derivative, which is MACD, has already made a low, right? And the second low is not as low as the previous low, right? That means these two are not in sync or they are not going together, right? They are not in symphony. So in such case, what happens is when you see that there's a reversal at this place, right? You see, this point you'll not know, right? Only when it does a U-turn, right, or a turn upwards, that's where you'll see that okay, there's a difference between the two, right? And this is the point where where you'll find a typical bullish divergence. Otherwise, if they are going in the same direction, then obviously it's a proper trending market. You don't see any reversal at this time. So Nagaraju, did you? So let me also take an example, right? In this case, the price is making lower low, right? Whereas the indicator is making higher low, right? So they are not in sync. Typically, what happens is if the price is going down, the tendency of any indicator, which is derivative of price, would also go down, and that's generally the case, right? That's generally the case for most of the scenarios. But here in this particular scenario, it is just other way around. Right? Can you show example? Would this example suffice, Nagaraju? Or you want a real life example?
Can you show one more example, sir?
Okay, so this is bullish divergence, and this is bearish divergence, right? Now, if you want to screen in real time, right? So go back, close all these things, all the settings, because that itself is a pretty rare pattern, right? MACD. Okay, sorry, it's a wrong place, right? So we have a separate set of divergence. Go to divergence, right? Divergence itself is so complicated. That's why we kept it out of the standard indicators. Go into MACD, go look at the bullish divergence on NSE 500 should be fine, EOD Tech, right? So when you look at these stocks, right, you'll see that this is MACD bullish divergence on Adani Transmission. Okay, so let's try to see and see the period. So basically, it's almost a month period. Over here also, it's about a month period, right? So let's try to spot that divergence, right? So price is clearly coming down, whereas the indicator is going up, right? If you see here, there was a strong downtrend and there's sort of a reversal which is coming up here, right? So this is one example, not a very good quality textbook example, but let me take it to another one, right? Over here also, the price is making lower lows, whereas the MACD is making higher lows, right? So this is another example, real world example, right? As we speak. So somebody mentioned about backtesting. Let's take an opportunity of backtesting of a divergence. Sorry, not chart pattern, technical screeners. We go to indicator, we go to MACD, bullish divergence. Right? Okay, so we saw a few stocks, right, which is latest today, Adani Transmission, as we see in the other places also, right? Let's increase the scope to 500. Now we go back 10 days back, right? So see to get a feel of backtesting, right, which Natesha sir mentioned. So when you click on this one, right, on 14th, there was a MACD bullish divergence. Let's see where it stands. Right? On 14th, there was a bullish divergence using these points, right? And then the stock movement in this particular case was not a great case, right? 14 December, right? So maybe we go into, let's say, a little bit more, maybe P minus 25. We see Balaji Amines as of 23rd of November. When you look at this one, 23rd of November is right. 23rd of November, there was a divergence here, right? So there was a small movement up there, right? There was a small movement, but it didn't really last for a very long time. Take example of another one, right? So here the divergence gave much better quality results, right? So not all time everything will give you best quality results, but the idea is to pick things, right? Over here also around that time frame, it has given a good rally. So sometimes you'll get very good rally. Sometimes there'll be a lot of whipsaws, or in the choppy market, you'll hit stop losses. But when you want to really ride the market, these are the signals, right, where you can really ride the market. So there was an opportunity using this divergence to ride the market. Right? Normally what happens is if the price jumps with a higher volume, there's a tendency of it going up, right? Whereas in this case, it has fallen back, right? So this could have been a good signal of seeing that something could be wrong, right? So volume plays a very important, only when you look at the price, then volume also comes into picture, right? So having a good understanding, having a good understanding of this thing is good, right? So looking in the candlestick, this thing, so this was an excellent bullish signal, right? It on top at a high, it has gone up, but again it couldn't sustain. So that's what you should be looking at. And this sort is a kind of a pattern, candlestick pattern. It's a loosely formed star pattern, which when we cover candlestick, we'll explain some of the theoretical patterns and some of the variations of it, right? So this would have given a good signal, right, that this is unlikely. So you could have cut loss rather than cutting loss at this point. You could have cut loss if you understand candlestick pattern also along with this one, right? Just a question, TSR strength scanner includes all these indicators. Trust me, it includes so many things that a lot of which are not yet published. Only when we have an opportunity we'll publish. It uses lots and lots of things. A lot of things, right? Let me give you an example if it is feasible to show you a TSR strength indicator, right? Want to give me a stock of your choice? Very pleasant voice. Thank you, ma'am. You made my day. Thanks. You want to give me a stock, or should
No,
I
sir,
look from the history?
it's really appreciable voice, sir. And you're too submissive in explaining, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Right. So let's try to use Adani Green, right? So Adani Green, right? So we'll take an example of Adani Green. Okay. So the indicator. Let's get here. Look at the trend strength, right? Trend strength here. Okay, so basically it says that it is like slightly on a bearish side. So let's try to look at the technicals, right? So what it does is, right, let me also show you a little bit more, right? All the indicators out here. So if you see, it uses all these indicators definitely for sure. Each of the indicators has its color coding strength, right? Has certain weight. So these are pure indicators. Similarly, you'll have about quite a few important moving averages. It uses quite a lot of moving averages, and it uses a lot of patterns. If you look at the patterns, chart patterns, all the chart patterns are here, right? The technical indicators as well as chart patterns, right? All the chart patterns. So it uses so many information that we try to cover. That is why at times it may not be fully in sync with the current price, but it tries to average out and takes the best, giving a proper weightage to different things. So basically MACD above signal line can have one weightage, MACD above signal line and trending up will have much higher weightage, right? Needless to explain it, like I don't want to bore you with those technical strength indicator, but if you see that it is looking as a bearish one overall, let's look at the chart. it's indeed quite bearish, right? Adani Green. So the example I just took it at random from one of you suggesting to me to use Adani Green. Somebody also suggested to use candlestick charts. So you can look even at candlestick chart. It's looking quite bad, right? In terms of these things. That is why our trend strength indicator shows as a bearish. Why it's not very bearish? You'll definitely find stocks which are far more bearish, but that's not in the scope of this particular discussion. All right. So that's about MACD bearish divergence. I hope that there are no further questions. So let's move ahead. We have almost an hour since we started. So I think we are doing well in terms of time. So histogram bullish bearish strategies we just covered, right? Both bullish and bearish. These are again a very good set of tools, and they should be in your toolbox. Okay. So have your toolbox with very good quality indicators, right? Having too many things will कहते हैं ना, too many cooks. I don't want to go into English phrases, but yeah, that's equivalent of it, right? So MACD double confirmation. MACD double confirmation is a bullish crossover along with another indicator, right? So let's see if there's an example. So the bullish crossover has happened here, right? It's the same example that we saw a while back, right? So we're trying to reuse it so that the amount of this time that we spent, right, on single chart gives you much better, what do we see, comfort level, right? Seeing the same charts and looking at things again and again. So don't want to confuse you with or dump you with a lot of information which are completely unrelated. So if you see, the MACD crossover has happened here. So if you go with purely this kind of crossover, it's a great thing, right? It's a proper tool which a lot of analysts use, and you can also use it, but only when it crosses above the zero line, right? Only when it crosses above zero line, then a proper trend has emerged, right? So depending on your aggressiveness, right? Depending on your aggressiveness, if you are an aggressive trader, perhaps you can get here. If you are relatively more conservative trader, right, then perhaps the combination of these two would give you better quality results. And also, if you see that histogram is also rising out here, right? So histogram obviously will rise when MACD cross above zero line. We have just understood that, right, in some of the previous slides. The MACD also is crossed above. So these are double confirmation kind of a thing, right? Wherein there's a MACD crossover as well as going above the zero line. The triple confirmation obviously is the histogram, right? If you want to see what has happened here, there's a very good movement out here, right, in terms of price and volume. So this is clearly broken out of the levels, right, the previous levels. I'll also suggest you to use one more indicator. Of course, it's not directly related, but it would help you in a lot of things, right? So go to DIY screeners, right? In the DIY screeners, you have a breakout and breakdown. So what it tells you is that the candle has broken out of last 20 candles with gap of latest with the previous one with at least, let's say, 8, right? Let's see if we get anything out there. Okay, no stocks. Okay. Okay, so we get 4 stocks, right? So if you see here, the candle has broken the last 20 days period, right? So today it has broken the previous 20 days tick, right? And with this being at least having a gap of certain level, right, from the previous high, right? So this is again a very good breakout strategy. Of course, the intention of this one is not to tell you price action, but look at it. Now, if you plot MACD along with this one, perhaps you'll see a lot of the good things very similar to that, right? So MACD is just crossing above signal line. So this is how. So the proper crossover has happened here. You wait for the signal line, right? We are just taking anything at random, right? I'm not just trying to read a script, but when you look at these things, right, whether you go with purely price or go with these things, right, they tend to give you similar signals. So you can build your expertise in few areas. Rest of the things, you be rest assured that we'll be following it, right? Be rest assured that it is following it. So don't have to spend too much time, especially when you are doing intraday or any kind of trading. If you are a working person or you have another business, you have limited time, right? So these are certain things that you don't. If you are a full-time trader, obviously that you'll be looking at the same screen, or maybe you'll have 20 different screens, as we see sometimes the analyst, right? Multiple screens stacked one above another with one chart showing one stock, another chart showing another stock. So if you are there, then well and good. Otherwise, these signals, right, we just taken at random from another screener, which is a breakout screener. From there, we'll see that all other things are also following pretty much in the same lines, right? So this is how you will get a lot of interesting stuff, right? Starting from one place, going and drilling down into another set of things. Okay, so whether it will work in small time frame, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, yes sir. Nishad, sir, it will work in all the time frames. It's just that you may have to fine tune or tweak a bit, but MACD does work in all the time frames, starting from 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hour, and any other time frame, right? Finding chart patterns would be relatively difficult in smaller time frames, spotting them, but MACD is obviously, it will give you signal, right? So if you add an alert, you'll obviously get a notification, and with that notification you can think of analyzing more or doing a trade. Okay, I hope that answers your question, sir. Right, MACD with other indicators, as we okay, so there are few hands, right? So Asif and Natesha sir, any questions that you have? Maybe Asif first and then Natesha sir.
Talking of multiple indicators, can you suggest a volume indicator that will better than other volume indicators?
Volume is, we have another session, sir, on volume, right? Where we'll cover Chaikin and a few other indicators which definitely has volume as part of this thing, right? Chaikin is one of the good ones. MFI is good, money flow index is good, right? There are many more. ADI is good, right? There are a lot of indicators which are also good when it comes to volume. So volume is basically what it tells us that if a stock of 100 rupees trades 10 times, then it is 1000 rupees. If a stock of 10 trades 1000 times, it is 10,000, right? So that's how you the volume indicators along with these things will come and give you signals on that front, right? Purely from volume standalone, we do have an option, right, where you can see the breakouts. So volume trending, right? You can go and look at the volume which is trending for, let's say, last 10 ticks, right? Just look at them, and maybe you'll get some stocks where the volume is trending, right? So there was no stock which was trending on NSE 500. So let's give it a few exceptions, maybe a couple of exceptions. Let's see if there are any stocks which are trending in that fashion, right? So, okay, no. 4. Okay, so you find few stocks where the volume is trending, but obviously with certain exceptions, right? So you'll get to know that volume is trending. 2 exceptions, 4 exceptions we put. Unfortunately, they are the last 2 ones, right? So I won't go too much into this in the volume. Maybe it's something like a preview for some one of these sessions which is happening in coming days, right? So indicators along with MACD, stochastic RSI. We briefly discussed RSI, but stochastic RSI, the way to trade stochastic RSI is pretty similar to RSI, right? So you can use stochastic RSI along with MACD to get better sort of confirmation and signals. Okay. Any questions so far?
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. No? Okay. So MACD for day trading, somebody mentioned that time frames and other things, right? So here it is, Nishad. So when you look at the MACD, right? So the standard one is 12.26.9, right? You change it, right? Change it to a smaller number, because see, if you see 26, right, it uses last 26 days value, right? Obviously, it may not really work well, or basically last 12 days value, right? It may not really work that well because in day trade, the fluctuations or the expectation of fluctuation is much higher. On a daily, you don't really care about 0.5% or 0.25%, right? But when it comes to day trade, then the fluctuations are or the basically the importance of the latest periods are much important. So if you see, the faster moving average is much smaller, right? 335, and the larger one is much higher number, right? Or if you can also look at multiple different combinations, right? So these are certain combinations which we tried out. It works, right? Feel free to try out before you get into things which works, right? Again, guys, as we discussed yesterday, right? Different set of stocks or in different phases, they tend to behave differently. Like if in a strong trending market, you'll have a different set of RSIs. MACDs. On a sideways market, you'll have a different set of things. So you can use MACD also for your settings. So this will be a good example for day trading. For swing trading, if you are looking for a slightly longer period, maybe 2 to 4 weeks, then you increase this thing, increase the duration, right? 24, 56 may be a better one with signal line. So if you see, it's almost like double of what the standard is. 12, 24, 26 should be 52, but here this tends to give you better results, right? And this is just double of it, right? Or even you can go for so MACD, it being a trending, right? So trend is my friend. Remember that phrase, right? So MACD, you can use it for extremely long trend. You can use it extremely long trend. Either you use a longer period or you go into weekly market, weekly MACD or monthly MACD, right? That's how also you can use MACD for swing trading, right? So don't stick with the textbook, right? Textbook is just to pass the exam. But to get successful in real market is what your experience comes, right? That's how we all succeed. Sometimes the toppers don't do that well, and sometimes people like backbenchers, they tend to perform very well in the industry, right? So with your experience, I think you'll be able to get there. Textbook is a great starting point. 12.26.9 is a great starting point. It also gives good results, but fine tune it based on your needs, based on how much time can you spend, change it to a higher or lower interval. Right? Any questions so far? Because I think we have covered most of the stuff of MACD, MACD concepts here, right? It works on all time frames. You can customize it, smaller, higher. All these features are available in MACD. The first one, what is available in TSR is changing the period, 12.24.9, change the calculation. What is it? Let's try to understand. Right? So going back into this part, let's look at MACD. What can you change? 12.26.9, crossing above, crossing below, whatever those things, right? So let's say it's above zero line, right? Above zero. And if you once you feel a little more comfortable, go here, change 12.26.9. Also the default calculation. Okay, so it's only EMA for now, right? We should be adding more moving averages soon. That's why the this thing option is there. As soon as we add, you guys will be able to see, right? What we are doing is we are internally testing that how good the results are, whether it's really useful to add other moving averages like SMA, Hull, and triple moving average. What you can plot on is close price. Also, you can plot on other values also, right? We'll be adding more options out here, right? Open plus close by 2 is a good option, right? What we have is high plus low by 2. That again works very well, right? Better than close price, because close price is just one random price. People who are more familiar, looks like that Rahul or Asif, they are more familiar with the candles, right? So they would generally look at more like a evening out of things, right? Feel free to use, right? Maybe Rahul and Asif, these would be a better numbers. Try it out if that works, but because you guys are more on the candlestick world, right? So try to use more and more of these values. Okay, so these are other set of customizations which you can do. Similar to what we have seen in RSI. If you have missed on the RSI, you can look at RSI above 0 on a daily tick. At the same time, you on the same screener, if you want to add a add condition, and condition, what you can do is above 0 on weekly also, right? And similarly, you can add any other tick of your choice, right? I'm just trying to keep it simple just to illustrate this particular thing. So when you click on this one, you'll see quite a few stocks, MACD. So what MACD will show you is basically the screener tick, right? So we don't have to repeat that it is daily, because that is screener tick. Any other tick that you select will come with that name, right? Weekly tick. For example, we change this to, let's say, 13, right? We change this to 13 on a daily tick, right? So since we have changed it to 13, then it can be confusing of just showing MACD. So what you can do is you change it. So in this particular case, if it is default, right, we'll show you just MACD. But if it is something else, then we'll show you the numbers, right? How this number is derived. So 13, 26. At times, what happens is you are looking at, you have made the configuration like what I did in one of those sessions, right? I changed it to high, and I was struggling in the session itself that why it is not showing the correctly, right? So in order to bring your attention back, what we try to do is we also try to tell you that what configuration this particular indicator is made of, right? So similarly, you can put this is on a close price. It uses EMA 13, 26, 9 instead of those set of indicator, right? It will help you to do this thing, right? When you export to CSV, then the label is also there. So a lot of times, some of our users they feel that they have a magic strategy. All that they care is getting the basic numbers, and they apply magic on their own and do their trading, right? Welcome to do so. So that in such case, this kind of headings or labels will also help you. Okay, so these are certain settings that you can do similar to the custom screener settings. Multiple time frame we have seen, change source of calculation periods we have seen. Similarly, what you can do is once you have this thing, click on the chart, right? I'll immediately go into candle chart, right? Because that's where the majority of interest is, right? So basically you don't have to redraw the chart. You see the screener, it is 13, 26 and 9. So is the chart is automatically plotted with those set of numbers 13, 26, 9, right? So it will give you a visual idea in much easier way, right? What else do I want to show? Also some of the folks, right, they want to know or they want to have, so this is the default calculation, right? You may not be interested in all these things. Let's say if you want to have your own custom set of values out here, right? So what you can do is you can add certain set of columns like highs and lows are here, right? So in such case, what happens is highs, lows or any set of customization will also appear here, right? So that will give you an idea. You can add as a preset of columns or a post set of columns. In post set of columns, what do we have? We have like let's say we go into key technicals because we are looking at MACD, right? So apart from the MACD values which are there, you can have pre and post set of columns which is there, right? Now, are these set of columns static? Definitely not. You can customize it. You can create template. I'll explain creation of these templates when we explain the product in greater details, right? All the features. But this is a sneak preview. Some of you may want to try it out and create one for you. Okay. So these are certain additional things that you can do on Top Stock Research along with the most powerful trending indicator, right? You can do all sort of other set of customization even on top of that, right? I hope I think that's about it. Do we have anything more? Do and don'ts. I think that will bore you because I have been talking the same thing again and again, right? I don't want to bore you with the same stuff unless you have missed the previous sessions, right? We'll share the slide and then you can look at those things, right? Quickly just mentioning over here without reading them, right? Also, what we'll do here is we'll take a small pause of taking any questions that may have come or any confusion that I may have created, right? We'll try to resolve if we can. So question sessions, guys, before we say goodbye to you and give you time for your dinner.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
I enjoyed your this thing explanation. It was very good. But I think so. Some similar of that sort required in Bollinger or Band also one session of
Tomorrow is
like
the
this,
Bollinger
right?
Band session. Yeah. Right. Do join us for
So
Bollinger. Again, my favorite tool.
yes. Mine
It's my
also
Sir,
favorite
there.
tool.
but sir, a kind request, sir. Sir, as I am a working woman and I am unable to attend at the time when you are starting it, sir. And
Yeah.
in the meanwhile, I am having a lot of text messages, so unable to concentrate, sir. I request to give me the recording, please.
Absolutely, very much appreciate, ma'am. First of all, working woman. Second thing is you are looking at additional set of this thing, right? Hats off to you, ma'am, of the kind of basically the enthusiasm that you have. What we have done is, right, I mean, the reason why we have this session on this thing is primarily targeting those guys who have taken week off the last week of the year, right? A lot of people take off. Rest of the sessions would be on weekends, right? Once we complete this week, rest of the sessions would be on weekends, right?
So yes, please, sir.
Yes, absolutely. We are conscious of those things. This is just for those guys who have taken days off, right? And then want to utilize the time, right? That's why we have these sessions. Why don't we have MACD setting as per the chart we are looking, like the day, week or month? We do have, right? Kamran, sir? You can have setting either on chart, look at the stocks, or you can have in the custom indicator and then go to chart. You can go both ways. I mean, the custom settings are at both the place. How do I know ongoing training programs? The way you got it, sir, today. There is a page. Book TSR sessions. This is where all the training sessions are there. Right? So, right, book sessions here. You go to this link and you'll get list of all the sessions which has happened in the past, which will happen in coming days. Yeah. Thank you guys. I think thank you very much for staying late. I think we just did better than the previous days, rightly on time. Expectation was about 1 hour, 10 minutes for the explanation and rest for the question and answers, and we just did well, right? Thank you for making it on time, guys. Thank you very much, sir. See you tomorrow on Bollinger Bands.